Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.
And today we're going to tell you how we felt about Transcendence, the new Johnny Depp film. This is kind of a sci-fi techno-thriller about a scientist who manages to turn himself into an artificial intelligence. So he has invented artificial intelligence, and he's figured out how to do it, and he ends up with this horrible debilitating illness from cyber terrorists who don't want this to happen and are trying to kill him, and so he ends up using his technology as a last-ditch effort in order to survive. And then most of the rest of the film is kind of about the big, broader ideas of the nature of consciousness and whether or not this guy is actually still himself. And it covers a big slew of classic science fiction ideas like collective consciousness and human nature and evolution and all kinds of stuff. Brandon, how'd you feel about Transcendence?
This movie made me feel like sleeping through it, just like all of the characters did. However, then I realized if I did that, I probably couldn't make a very good review. But then I thought, well, perhaps maybe I could have.
Wow.
Even if I had.
That's rough, man.
That is pretty rough. This movie wanted to deal with a lot of these things, man versus machine, the unification of technology versus biology. And I think it missed the mark in several places.
Wow, all right.
The thing that I have to go to is they gave a lot of thought to the look and design of the computer systems in this, and there's a lot of things that could have been based in reality. This was my favorite part of this movie. There were some ideas that could have been fully explored in this movie, but I think to its detriment, they just kind of fell very, very flat here. So basically, they didn't do it well. That's my main problem with this movie. Is execution was pretty terrible. They didn't give much for Johnny Depp to work with either. He was a very unmoving character for me. I could not get vested in his plight at all. They didn't give me enough of that. And the thing that I liked best was the aesthetic feel of what they could have done.
Yeah. But like some of the look of it you thought was all right.
Yeah, definitely. There were some major problems, and I hope I'm not giving too much away. Like locations where they had computer equipment, I just not buying it. Also, they mentioned in the trailer uplink to the internet, so I'm not giving anything away there.
Yeah.
There's just no way in 3 seconds you can upload a consciousness to the internet. I don't care if you're using Google Fiber or what. You could be the internet and you couldn't upload that fast. There's a whole bunch of technical things that just couldn't happen. They wanted to make it was a lot of Hollywood misunderstanding of how things should actually work.
And so, are you complaining mostly about technology or also about characterization?
Characterization was pretty
having a hard time with both.
Yeah, characterization was pretty bad here. I couldn't get behind they were supposed to be husband and wife, and I really didn't feel it. And I didn't even feel her when she got scared later on. I didn't even feel that.
Yeah,
it wasn't even written on her face.
Man, I wouldn't even just say there's no chemistry between them. I'd say that there's no characters.
There really aren't
in the first place. Like there's just a lot of wooden.
They bring us into a situation that has already started years ago, and they don't give us much of a background about anybody, just to say this is who they are. And we don't really know where they come from, what they've been doing. Everything's kind of a mismatch of what everybody else has been doing. They're all working together, but we don't get a sense of their background. We don't get a sense of their motivations either.
Well, go ahead and flip your sign. I think it's kind of obligatory at this point.
Not feeling it.
So how disappointed were you? Like when you saw previews, did you think like this looked like kind of a
when
fun,
you and I
film?
first saw
I was pretty stoked for it. Man.
I was too, and that was a few months ago. I remember first seeing it. I was like, "What is this movie? This looks really cool," but the execution was all wrong. And the other thing.
Yeah.
I called just about everything in this movie.
As did I. In fact, I'm starting to get irritated with you because we'd be watching the movie and you'd look over at me and you'd be like, "This is about to happen," and then I'd be like, "I'm not a freaking moron." Like all the
I know, but it had to be said.
I know. No, it didn't.
Yes, it did.
No, because it's rude. We're in an audience with other people. I'm just kidding. But the thing is,
how do I know you don't know that I'm not really thinking it?
He was incredibly quiet about it. Nobody could. But the thing is, if only we had a link up between us.
Oh yeah.
If only we had.
If we could have transcended this movie experience.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, Brandon, this movie,
sir.
and I could have written a lot of things. This movie made me feel like I might have appreciated this film a tick better had Her not come out last year. Which I'm not saying this is ripping that movie off, of course, because I mean they had to have made around the same time.
Right.
It's really interesting, by the way, sometimes how these movies come out in 2s and 3s. You know what I mean? Where
I've noticed that before.
Like you know, some years you have like the big tech thriller year, which seems and that wasn't a tech thriller, but you know what I mean. Like you'll have a year where everything's about Romans, and you'll have a year where everything's about something else. Fish with Finding Nemo back in the mid 2000s, and then Shark Tale came out either the same year or the year after. This seems to always happen.
And romance happens too a lot. Hand in hand.
Yeah, but those are like romance action movies. Those are just kinds of movies. I'm talking like themes. I'm talking like a movie about like 2 Hercules movies this year. Really, this happens. It's really weird. Anyway, by the way, I'm kind of looking forward to that other one. I don't know why Vince and I reviewed that first one. That was
well. So speaking of looking forward to it, like we're talking about this movie. There was a preview for another movie that's coming out that was similar to this, and I think they're going to do it way better.
Yeah, I think so too. So we've got you're right, and it makes a lot of sense in the day and age we're living in, and with all of the fears about intelligence and about surveillance and privacy and that kind of stuff, that this sort of thing is happening, where we're afraid that our technology is getting the better of us.
Yes, indeed.
That we have created technology that is too easy for anybody to use against us, and that it's changing who we are as people. That's kind of at the core of this movie, and one of the many ideas I latched onto. And I will get back to that statement in a minute. Let me mention my board. So Her is also a movie about creating artificial intelligence. It's also about artificial intelligence transcending.
Yes.
And it just handles it a lot better. It's very different in that it is a man-made thing in the first place entirely, and not using a consciousness that already existed. So something that this movie introduces that I thought was a really good idea, I shouldn't say introduced, it's not like I've never seen this before, but something that this movie does with that idea is it says we can't straight up create artificial intelligence because we don't understand intelligence. We don't understand consciousness. How can you create something if you don't have a sense of what it is in the first place? And that's kind of RoboCop. It's interesting that this had kind of a lot of things in common with that. The problem is I just spent a whole bunch of time with that movie too. I'm talking the original.
The original, yeah.
And because the new movie actually did not do that. It did the opposite of that. But I just recently spent a lot of time with that movie. So 2 movies that I recently have seen and dealt with that handled some of these ideas a whole lot better.
Right.
But lots of ideas that I really latched onto. I really dug this idea of like cyber terrorists that all used to be on board with the internet, and in fact, part of why they've turned this way is because they understand the internet and they see where it's going. A line got crossed. These are not Amish people. Yeah, I really like that it's not like that. It's not all technology is bad. I mean, there is this idea of if we rely too much on technology, we lose who we are. But it's not all technology, it's just going as far as they're going. Once you create an artificial intelligence, you're handing over too much potential power to something that isn't human, that you can't trust. And I really liked those ideas.
You made a good point. I have to mention this right here. this something that this movie did actually really well was it made the distinction between, like you said, not all technology is bad. Now, granted, they take everything down, but only because they failed in their original goal.
Yes, exactly.
To destroy the artificial intelligence before it made it to the internet, made copies of itself, and infected everything. That's why they had to take everything down, but that wasn't their original intent. They made a clear distinction between that. That was a good thing.
I'll tell you why this movie is such a huge letdown for me.
Yes.
It is really super awkward because it's trying so hard to make me buy into some of, buy into these characters. It's trying really hard to, it's giving me what I need artificially in order to find certain characters likable, and I'll tell you what I mean about that in a second. It's also throwing a lot of the big classic science fiction ideas all together in one movie in a big giant ball, and I think they all go together for the most part, but then the ending kind of oversimplifies the whole idea. So here's the thing. You've got a movie here that, on paper, the whole plot's okay. I'm actually going to say that.
Sure.
I actually kind of like the overarching plot, but the writing is horrible. I'm sorry, it just is. It's as if somebody wrote a blueprint for a really cool sci-fi movie that would kind of stretch my mind and make me think about all of these ideas and nature of humanity and all those sorts of things. And then you actually get into the characters and nobody makes any sense, especially the wife.
Yeah.
This woman
That's a
is
good call.
so easy to manipulate. All you gotta do is, after she's been dealing with her husband as a computer for 2 years, which by the way the movie is inconsistent about that. We get a timestamp for 2 years, but
I have
then
a thing to say
Morgan
about
Freeman's
that.
character in the third act says it's been a few months, and it's like
it's been months since he died.
These characters can't even keep up with the movie's timestamp. Oh, all right.
That's another thing I want to discuss later.
Yeah. So anyway, so she's been somehow okay with everything he's doing. I mean, she's not batting an eye at these really potentially morally ambiguous things. And by the way, I think the whole movie would work out if she was unsure if he was actually benign or not from the get-go.
She's the only one that's not
get-go.
unsure.
Yeah, until Morgan Freeman hands her a piece of paper with four words on it, and then she's like, "Oh, wait a minute."
Yeah, and then she gets an idea from Johnny Depp's character himself.
So Morgan Freeman spends 6.5 seconds with Johnny Depp's computer, and then she's all but she spent all this time with him, and all of these like he's linking people between
that
each
never
other.
paid
and
off.
She's no, it really didn't, because it's throwing too much stuff in there. I think, and again, I think this stuff all could fit together.
Right.
I really do think that collective consciousness is something to deal with here. But the thing is, it never really is about whether or not he's controlling people, and so what's that about?
It's like he can force his consciousness onto them, but that's about the extent of it.
Right, but I'm just saying that there's all these different things, and then the earliest thing is so basically Johnny Depp decides to this computerized Johnny Depp. He decides to buy a whole little town in order to operate out of and try to change the world. And I won't go into all the things he does, but one of the things is the collective consciousness thing. They're working on nanotechnology and all kinds of stuff, and it's mostly about nanotechnology. And the first place where she should have been like, I don't know if we should be doing this, loving husband of mine, is when she is when he starts stealing money from all over the place and putting a whole bunch of money in her bank account so that she can go buy this town. It's like, what is her morality at this point?
Her company makes like $30 million overnight, and nobody bats an eye.
So she is a different character from scene to scene, and that's just one big example of the underlying huge problem with the whole movie. I think it's very simple, Brandon. The script is the dialogue and the characterization is not matching the potential fascinating ideas that we've got here. And like I said, what's on paper is okay. I actually want to love the ending. I want to love the ending. And
I kind of do too.
And I'll tell you why. It's because at the end of the day, this is this. And again, I don't want to give anything away, but at the end of the day, it's a love story, and it wasn't that until the end, and all they had to do was give these characters chemistry and give them most of the screen time together, and that's why I invoke Her, because Her was a relationship piece, and this movie wants to be a relationship piece on a different sort of scale, and actually really interestingly on this kind of like scale of nature and biology, and I mean it's really interesting potentially, you know, and I wanted to love that ending with the characters we got, with the writing, and even weirdly with some of the really obvious stereotypical choices in cinematography that give you like a really obvious and standard symbols of what's to come. I kind of felt like it was sappy, but I didn't want to think that.
They were trying to bookend this, but I wanted to love the ending too. But like I said, it comes down to execution here, because while that could have been something, it really wasn't to me. And here's the reason that I think that, because this movie was trying to give you an idea where, okay, first off, it makes a really ambiguous meaning out of the whole time structure here. It starts out with a time somewhere in the future where technology is pretty much gone.
And boy, I wish they hadn't done that.
Right. And then they say 5 years earlier, and we start in the same place where we started, but 5 years earlier with a different character, who's Johnny Depp's character, and we go from there. What they really wanted to do was wrap this around all to the original place where the ideas kind of got started, where it kind of churned, but it really didn't have that emotional punch.
No.
Because I couldn't get behind the characters that they were supposed to have punched me with.
And I knew too much.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes that kind of nonlinear thing can work, but, you know, I complain about this all the time. I seem to not be able to make a video without complaining about the in medias res doing it wrong, starting at the end of a movie and then not even working your way backwards, but just starting from somewhere earlier and telling us too much information. Can work, didn't work here. And
there's a meaning there, but we wouldn't have even known it until we got to the end.
Well, but it doesn't even matter that there's meaning there, because is it lost if you cut the opening? It's not lost. Just cut that opening. It's the same movie.
Right, exactly.
Just cut it.
It'd be lost if you cut the ending, but not the opening. So that would have worked way better.
Because you know what we lose with it? Freaking tension, Brandon. Because
we don't know. We know where it's going. We've seen it.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like it's ambiguous enough that we don't know how it gets to this kind of blacked out world that we get at the end. But something about knowing that makes me not as scared of Johnny Depp's character as I'm supposed to be.
Because we know the ultimate outcome.
Yeah, exactly. And again, this isn't giving too much away. This is at the very, very beginning of the movie, but we know that all of these characters make it. And we don't know how it gets to this blackout place, but I mean,
we know who's there in the end and who isn't.
I would have much more appreciated the ending and then the ending. What I mean is the way they finish what Johnny Depp's character is doing, and then the actual ending in that far future, or a couple years, whatever it is. I would have 5 years. I would have much more appreciated all of that if I had no idea where it was going.
Right.
Brandon, this whole thing just feels incredibly generic to me, with very not generic ideas on paper.
Right.
And I'm just sick of movies like this where it's like if somebody had written this as a philosophy paper, it would have been really interesting.
Right.
But as a movie, it doesn't work. We are constantly being told what the point of everything is. These characters are speaking mostly in just kind of grand platitudes and moralizing and philosophizing, and they're not people. And let's get into real briefly. By the way,
yes. How are you?
Duh.
I was gonna ask.
But real quick. I'm sorry. Did that get on camera? Was that?
Let's try again.
And again, I hate it, because there's a lot here to like, but it's all conceptual.
Well, let me say. Sorry, go ahead. Well, I was going to say...
Because I'm going to bring us to a different place. Go ahead.
We have different ideas going on here. Like, different people are convinced about their way of thinking,
right.
And there's like 3 different ways of thinking. One of the overarching thought processes is this really this guy?
You know, I don't mind that.
I don't mind it either, but they were such a diverse nature. Like, this person's unsure. They're waffling. The wife is waffling.
Right.
And then the other scientist is
but very artificially.
Yeah, exactly. Then the other scientist that's not him at all. And then somebody's like, it's got to be him, but it couldn't possibly be him. There's no way.
That should be great.
Right.
Having those opposing viewpoints should be great.
Exactly.
But the problem with it is that they don't seem like real people to me.
Exactly.
And
I agree with you completely.
Brandon, every actor in this movie is wasted. This is an all-star cast.
It's totally awesome.
And they're wasted.
Yeah, totally awesome and wasted. But the other thing that I had to mention while I'm thinking about it here is we're talking about the time frames. This is a trend that I've noticed and I don't like it. They give us a set time of 5 years ago. So we know we started at a certain time and we went 5 years before. And then they tell us, then they don't tell us anything. That could be, we were somewhere in between the 5 years. But we don't know where we were.
Yeah, but again,
I wouldn't have even given...
Again, I don't care, because just cut that opening scene.
Exactly. But here's the other thing. Knowing that it's 5 years, I don't buy that they could have done anything that they did within that time frame.
Ooh, I don't agree with you, man.
Because, really? Well, even with the super intelligence, I'm not buying it.
The problem is...
That was too state-of-the-art.
They could have made me believe it. If I knew more about the intelligence in the first place.
Right.
And I actually kind of thought that in a more smartly written movie, you could have gotten away with all of that technology and everything being built up in like a week or two. Because again, if you look at her, they made me buy all of these artificial intelligences all getting together and accomplishing all these amazing things like really super fast. Now I know there were a whole bunch of them, and they all gain consciousness at the same time because somebody in an office someplace was just freaking genius and got it right the first time.
Right. I was going to say, let's not forget that. It was perfect the first operating system.
That was always hilarious to me. And let me say this really quick too. Unlike her, this is set in present day, and I kind of liked that.
Right.
I kind of like the idea of getting to see what if it happened right now. But I'm just saying that like. He could have potentially started creating more artificial intelligences. No, because he would need other people's brains in the first place. So never mind. Maybe it would take him longer. Perhaps so. The bottom line is, I don't understand enough about how this stuff works because the movie puts things in such layman's terms that, I mean, like, you don't want to go over my head, but at the same time, it's almost as if it's afraid to tell me anything because it thinks I'm stupid. Yeah. And this whole movie, I feel like the movie thinks I'm stupid. It is one of those movies, especially because of all of the very contrived things that will happen in a scene just to build up dramatic tension because they don't know how to make people act like real people and create that tension in an organic sort of way. That's my bottom line.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
no,
sure.
I want to know.
I'm done.
Throughout the movie, they try to make the point of wondering, is that actually him in the computer?
Yeah.
Do you think it's actually him, or do you think he lost something in the transcendence, in the transfer of his brain to the computer?
I feel like at the end of the day, and again, we're not going to give anything away. I feel like at the end of the day, the movie is telling me what is what, so it's kind of clear about it, and I think that's supposed to be the optimism. The difficulty with it.
Because I didn't believe it. That was my difficulty.
Well, I'm not sure I don't believe it. The thing is, the problem is it doesn't take me far enough in the first place, Brandon. I can't get there with it because I don't believe in these characters in the first place. You see what I'm saying? So, like, I guess my point is I don't care, and I should care, but I don't. You get to the end of it, and it comes down pretty hard on whether or not it's actually him in the computer. And a more smartly written film would have given me the exact same ending and made me wonder about it more.
Yes.
And this doesn't give me the chance to wonder. It kind of just puts it all on the table, I think. I think. Now you're right. It is possible that it's somewhat ambiguous. But again, it doesn't really matter, I don't think.
Well, I'm going to say I agree with you almost completely that the movie makes a case for... The movie is telling us too much, and it tells us the answer to the question I just asked you, but I don't believe that answer because of the joke that was told in there, that leaves it more ambiguous for me. I also don't believe it because of what he said later on, but I'm not going to give that away.
Sure, yeah. But like I said, the whole thing is so manufactured that I don't think it matters if you believe it or not, because it doesn't earn the question.
It does not.
Is
and I wish it had.
And it needs to, because, like I said, that ending could have been genius in a better film. Anyway, that's just how I feel about it. Oddly, this movie is produced by Christopher Nolan, which I could not believe, especially because I spent the whole movie feeling like it was a generic Chris Nolan ripoff. And then it turns out that Nolan's name is on it. This movie is shot a lot like it thinks it's Nolan, and it's and I wish Nolan had directed it, because it might have been a better movie. Although I don't know if I don't think better directing could have saved the script. I mean, I think it needed just better material in the first place. But also the score is by someone named Michael Donna, who I'm not familiar with, and would have to look up. But he's using a bunch of Dark Knight cues.
Yeah.
The soundtrack
and there's a lot
in this.
of Batman actors in this too.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that's cool, fine, whatever.
Yeah, it's cool. I just wish they upped our cast.
And I'm sure the fact that Nolan's name is on it might have something to do with it. I doubt he had much to do with this movie at all. I'm surprised that that it wasn't advertised with his name at all. I didn't see his name.
That was really surprising, because the first indication we had of him being involved was in the movie.
The credits, yeah. So I wonder why they didn't do that, but it's probably good for him that they didn't, because it's getting very critically panned, and I don't mean to go with the grain just to go with the grain. I certainly never do that on purpose, but I've seen the movie now, and I didn't really like it either.
I reserve judgment.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you know, it's impossible not to hear things. Several people sent me messages and were like, "Hey, did you hear about how bad apparently Transcendence is?" But I didn't read any reviews before I went, and was hoping that it might be one of those things where 33% of people on Rotten Tomatoes didn't like it, but I was in that you know, or did like it, but that I was somehow in that percentage. That happens, you know, but. In this particular case, I'm kind of right with the traffic on this. I didn't. Yeah. Oh man, I hate that. This could have been.
It did not transcend my opinion in the end.
No, it just didn't really work at all. Well, anyway, everybody, thanks as always for watching us review a new movie. Wow, I'm not sure we've ever been this hard on anything. But
probably not to this degree. But
it just hurts my feelings because you know the ideas are there.
It hurts your feeling.
It hurts my man. It hits me right in the feels. Well, anyway, I want to say thanks again to everybody for watching, and Brandon and I will try to be with you again next week to review something. I haven't looked to see what's out next week. I think this. Coming week, well, actually, let me put it this way. This coming weekend, I'm going to be out of town, and probably won't be able to get anything reviewed for the following week. Next weekend, the following weekend is Amazing Spider-Man, so that'll be the next thing that gets covered, if not by me and Brandon, then by me and somebody else. And there will, of course, as always, be a spoiler podcast on Amazing Spider-Man. So look forward to that, and I will try to get a rewind out on Amazing Spider-Man, the first one, if not right before, then right after. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody. As always, everybody watching for, and we'll see you again next time on how we're feeling about whatever we just watched. This movie made me feel dyslexic. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.
And we'll see you later.
Do 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 do.